Okay, welcome everybody. This is the Community Voter Forum sponsored by the Oregon Area Progressives. And I'm going to ask everybody here to silence your cell phones so to not disrupt any proceedings. The audience is able to ask questions of the candidates. What you do is fill out a little green slip out in the foyer, thank you, out here, and give it to to me, basically, or to Nancy, whose hand is raised there, and we will give them to the moderator. We're going to just review them in case there's duplications of questions. That's the only reason we'd pull a question out. We do ask that you address questions to all of the candidates and not just to one candidate. We're going to rotate who gets to answer the question first. And the format is going to be each candidate gets a 3-minute opening statement, and then they'll have 2 minutes to answer each question posed to them. And then they'll get a 2 to 3 minute closing statement, depending on how much time is left. We should have a short break between the village board and school board sections. Village board will go to a little before 3, and then the school board will be from 3 to 3:30. So we'll switch the candidates out. So then with no further ado here, I'll give it to our moderator, Diane Liebert from the League of Women Voters.
Thank you. The first question is an introduction. So, give us some information about your background and why you're running for this particular position. And we're going to start with Jenna.
All right. Well, thank you all for having us this afternoon and for coming out to the candidate forum. My name is Jenna Jacobson, and I am running for village trustee. I am bringing to the table approximately 15 years of a financial planning background. I have a degree in financial planning, and most of my work experience is in that realm. I'm currently a stay-at-home mom, but I also lead a financial planning class in the community to help people in our community with budgeting and credit counseling, things of that nature. I also have been the stewardship chair at my church for the past 2 years, which is basically fundraising, and working in our missions committee as well. The reason why I'm running is because my husband and I have lived here now for 3.5 years. We're raising 3 small children in the community. 2 of them have entered into the school district now, and I have fallen in love with this community like I haven't with any other community that I've lived in, and I've moved quite a bit in my life. It sounds a little cheesy, but I like to share the story of when we first moved in. All of our neighbors came over and introduced themselves to me. One of them even brought cookies, which is something I had not experienced before. And I think that's just a small anecdote of the openness and welcoming community that we have moved into, and with some of the growing and changing that is going on in our community, I feel like I would be a good fit to help make some of these upcoming decisions and keep the community growing in a smart and sustainable way, keeping it growing for everybody and great for the families that are moving into our community. So,
thank you.
Yeah.
Next.
Sure, I'm Jeannie Carpenter. I'm currently on the village board, and I am running for my 3rd term. So I would very much respectfully ask for your vote, and thank you very much to the Progressives for putting on this forum. This is very nice. A little bit about me. My husband Uriah and I moved here in 1998. Gosh, it's almost 20 years. And I think this is a very common story. We were both working in Madison, so we shopped the burbs. And Oregon just kind of caught my eye because it had a cool downtown. If you've ever gone to any of the other burbs around Madison, not many of them have a historic downtown. Actually, I don't think any of them do like we do. And also the schools. Our daughter went through all the school here. She's 20 now. And in the last 19 years, Oregon has very much become home. In fact, when people ask me where I'm from, I say Oregon. I grew up on a farm near Belmont, but I've spent most of my adult life here. My background, I have a degree in journalism. I was a city county government reporter for 9 years out of college. Frankly, got tired of starving to death, so went into the dark world of PR, but I found a really good PR job in the Wisconsin Department of Agriculture. I landed a job as a spokesperson for the Wisconsin dairy industry. And so if you know anything about me, most people know me as the cheese lady. That's how I got into cheese. I was incredibly lucky to be in the right place at the right time when we received some federal grants to reinvigorate the Wisconsin dairy industry. So between 2004 and 2012, I was on a team of 19 people, and we helped 92 of the cheese plants in Wisconsin modernize and another 47 start up. So if you're ever wondering, how does she know like every cheesemaker in the state, and how does she know about all these cheeses? Because I've been in them all. In fact, I have a funny story about drinking coffee that I have read a blog. Never drank coffee until I worked for the Department of Ag. Turns out when you go in and you meet people and you say, I'm from the government and I'm here to help you, if you turn down the coffee, they look at you like there must be something wrong with you. So I started drinking coffee in cheesemakers in cheese plants. I guess we'll probably get to this as we go on, but some of my goals for this term of Village Board is when you first start running for office, you have these goals of that you want to listen and you want to learn, and those are always my goals. But this time I have two hills I'm really willing to die on. And the first hill is I want to get the extension of North Prairie Parkway done to go to our new high school athletic facility and our good school. And then the other thing is I really want to keep moving on our civic campus plan and start construction of a new library by 2020. So those are the two things that I'm committed to this term. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Michael?
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Michael Stapleman. I'm originally from Madison, Wisconsin, just up Highway 14. And I went to UW-Madison, got a bachelor's degree in English, graduated in 2005. I've worked at Epic since I graduated. When I started, so just over 10 years ago, when I started, there were about 2,500 employees there, and now we're pushing 10,000, so right around the size of Oregon. I really love my work at Epic. I work in technical services. I'm a team lead where I right now manage a team of 40 other technical service folks. Like I said, I love it out there, and I'm really thankful for the opportunities that job has given me. My wife, Jen, is in the audience today. We moved to Oregon about 3 years ago. She's the JV volleyball coach at Oregon High School. We've been here about 3 years, and echoing what Jenna shared, I've just loved it. I think this has been an exceptionally welcoming community. I've pretty quickly grown to feel like it's my home. I want to make sure that it stays a great place to live for the folks who've been here their whole lives, and remains an attractive option for new folks looking to put down new roots. Some things that I think we need to focus on to make sure that happens is make sure that we continue to improve the services and the events that we're offering, to make sure that we have events for a wide range of interests, as well as providing the services for the ever-growing community. Looking at helping Oregon continue to grow, I think downtown can be the heart of a community, and I think our downtown can continue to grow. So I'm interested in making sure that we increase the number of businesses and the number of services offered downtown. I'd like to focus on local businesses when it makes sense, and make sure that we're supporting Oregon's entrepreneurs. I'm also interested in making sure that the services offered by the community continue to grow. I'm very excited for the new building for the library, so that we can increase the number of materials available, but also improve the offerings that we're able to give to the community, and expand the offerings for different folks. I'm also interested in making sure that as Oregon grows, we're anticipating where we need to make changes, so that we can plan ahead and make changes before there's a problem. With proactive planning and good input from the community, we can make sure that Oregon's growth is positive and seamless. I'm really looking forward to working alongside this group and working alongside all of the residents of Oregon to make sure it's a good next 2 years. Thank you.
Thank you. There's a fourth candidate that wasn't able to be here, and she sent a note.
I told Darlene Grenier, who could not be here today, she had a vacation that was planned before she was invited to this forum, so she could not be here. She did send me a statement that she wanted me to read, so I'm just going to do that quick as sort of her opening statement. Hi, my name is Darlene Grenier. I'm running for trustee for the Village of Oregon. I lived at 870 5 Clover Lane and have lived in the village for 39 and a half years. I am married to Jim, have 4 sons, all who have graduated from Oregon High School. I am retired but have practical experience in the work field for over half a century and have lots of common sense. I have served on the village board for the last 10 years. I have served on many committees: Library Board, Council on Aging, Senior Center, EMS, Fire Commission, and Board of Review. Other public services I have served on are Oregon Lioness President, Vice President, Treasurer, and Chairman of our Holiday Tour of Homes. Past President and Vice President of Oregon Chamber of Commerce, Chairman and Co-Chairman of the Oregon Summerfest, Holiday Lights, and Band Shelter Building Committees. My goal for the next 2 years is to promote more businesses and jobs for a better tax base, promote infrastructure of roads, water, sewage, sidewalks, and the like. Maintain support for the senior center, library, youth center, and public safety. The changes to the village I would like to make is to make it user-friendly and streamline the process, expedite the growth and finance for new businesses using TIF and other means. What the village really needs is to expand tax base with a hotel, more industry in the industrial park, expand the street of North Perry Parkway and other streets improvements. Also, keep those taxes down so we can keep our senior citizens living in our village. Just a little tidbit, my breast cancer has recurred to my lungs because of my cancer journey, which is going to give me more strength than I even had before, and I'm going to win the 2 battles with all of your help. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, our next question, we start with Jean. It's on Parks and Recreation. Do you feel the village has allotted sufficient funds to Parks and Recreation?
This is interesting because this is kind of one of my, it's not the third hill I'm willing to die on, but it's a knoll that I'm very interested in. So I would like us to see in our capital improvement plan, our capital improvement plans go over 5 years for the village. And I am very much lobbying our staff, Village Administrator Michael Grace, who usually sits right there, to put in budgets for a part-time Parks and Rec director. I think as we reach 10,000 people, the folks living here, the folks moving here, expect a higher level of services than we're currently giving them. We are drastically short of space of ball fields for all the youth sports in Oregon. My daughter is grown, so I don't witness that firsthand, but I sure have a lot of people coming up and telling me that. So I know that there's need for to build and to renovate more fields in the village. I'm not opposed to that. I just think we need to budget wisely to make that happen. But I really do think that the first step in making that happen is to hire a person who could be our point person. There are lots of folks now getting university degrees in Parks and Recreation Management. I'm not an expert in that, but I think it could very much behoove the village to hire someone like that part-time. So that's one of the things I'm interested in for the next 2 years.
Okay, thank you. Michael?
I am not in the details of the ongoing budgets well enough to know exactly how much we have budgeted for park development, but I agree that making sure we have green spaces and parks is definitely important for the community. Giving youth the ability for both structured and unstructured play is vitally important to growth, not only physically but also socially and mentally. It helps kids learn the skills they need to be self-confident both by themselves and as part of a team. I love the idea of a part-time Parks and Recs director. I'd be really interested in seeing what that would mean for the community and what it would take to make that happen. I also think it's a good idea to make sure as we're looking at new developments, making sure that we're leaving space for green spaces and make sure that we're including that as part of our planning to make sure that we have green spaces around where we have communities so that it's everyone in the community has a park within walking distance.
Okay, thank you. Jenna?
As a frequent user of the parks here in Oregon, I love them and think that a part-time or full-time public works or park director would be a great idea to explore because one of the things that I'm noticing is as we continue our development and we do require that subdivisions that we're approving have certain levels of green space, it doesn't seem to me the things that I'm hearing that we are also putting funds away to maintain those green spaces. I'm not sure if we're expecting homeowners associations to do that, or what the expectation is when we're approving these, and I would need to find out more about that. But similar to the statements that you've heard echoed here, parks are important to our kids, they're important to our communities as gathering spaces, and if we're going to offer these amenities, we need to be able to keep them up. Likewise, if we're going to have sports, I think the fact that some of our club sports, youth sports have to go to different communities in order to do their practices is a really lost opportunity for economic development in our community, and we can capture that by providing more fields, by providing amenities for when we have tournaments and things on those fields. That I think is an opportunity that we need to explore more as we're inviting more people into our community to do these things, to do games and things. So yeah.
Okay, thank you. The next couple of questions are going to be on economic development. And we start with Michael. What are your thoughts about TIF districts? What should the village policy regarding granting TIF to businesses be?
So first of all, I do generally support the idea of helping bring development into the community through the use of TIF districts. What I want to make sure is that we take a close look at the type of development we're bringing in and make sure that we understand what are we planning for. When the TIF districts close, are we going to have expanded the tax base well enough to offset the investment we've made there? I also think we need to make sure that we're bringing the right types of development into town so that they're sustainable in the long run, and that we don't have folks who are making bad deals for the community of Oregon.
Okay, thank you, Jenna.
I find TIFs to be kind of an interesting beast. I spent a lot of time learning about them as I'm learning about being a village trustee. And one of the things that I like is that we can structure each individual TIF deal differently as a developer comes in. But one of the things that I'd be looking for is there a net gain to our community, and not just with the tax base, but overall to the overall goal persona of the community. So my understanding is that TIF started out as a way to reduce blight in a community. So that's one thing we look at is there an area in the community that needs some redevelopment, and can we use a TIF as a way to invite a developer in to help us with that. But also, what is the overall economic gain? Are we getting jobs out of this, or is it helping the community in a way that isn't just another apartment building or just another business park, but is there an overall net gain to our village? And so I think weighing that cost and benefit with each individual project is my goal for the TIF district.
Oh, thank you. Jean?
Yeah, so I've been on the board now for 4 years, and we've had a variety of TIF offers or such come our way. And the thing that I've learned about TIF is that you have to weigh every proposal by its own merits. And on the board, we have this thing called the but-for test. I think many communities adopt this. We are very religious about doing this in Oregon. And it's your proposal, your project, whatever it might be, would not be built but for the assistance of TIF funds. Every project that we've approved has passed the but-for test. The other thing that I'm very interested in that I never really, I'm an English major, so I didn't know about the IRI, the internal rate of return. Our board has kind of become experts in that because we don't want developers coming in here and getting rich off of restoring blighted areas and then also using taxpayer dollars. We look for internal rate of return of no more than 10 to 12%. So in other words, if the developer is making more than 10 to 12% in the project, we're like, yeah, we're going to pass. You can afford to do that on your own. We're not giving you any money. And so you'll find that the TIF projects in Oregon are very smart. In fact, and this is public knowledge, the internal rate of return on these apartments that we have that going on Jefferson Street is 5.6%. I'm all for a developer making 5.6% profit and also get rid of a very blighted area back there on Main Street. So yes, I'm in favor of TIF when used cautiously and carefully. And I think the village board, we've done a pretty good job of really taking our measured time in looking over each proposal very carefully.
Okay, thank you. The next question goes to Jenna. How will you ensure that project developers and property owners are accountable when they meet with people in the neighborhood about their proposed project?
I think part of that is going to, we have a lot of opportunities when developers come before the planning commission and before the board at large to simply ask them on the record, are you meeting with people? And then I think my responsibility as a trustee is to then also go into that neighborhood and ask the neighbors who are supposed to be meeting with these, or who are supposed to be given these opportunities and say, have they met with you? Have they reached out in the manner that we've asked them to? And are things getting done? So I think that is, there's, the two parts to it, both in the meeting, talking to the developer, but also outside of the meeting, being in the community that's being affected, making sure I'm maintaining the relationship with anybody in that neighborhood, and not only asking for follow-up, like me going out to them, but then also making sure that my phone is available, my door is always open to hear any feedback that they're having as the process is moving through.
Okay, thank you. Jean?
Sure. So I'm thinking that question probably comes from, we've had a couple projects in the last year where we've had developers sitting at the table in front of us saying, oh, we've had meetings with the neighbors and they're all in favor of it. And then we have the first public hearing and this room is full of people who are not in favor of it and they're all the neighbors. That's an eye-opening experience, let me tell you, when you're sitting up here on the board, because you're looking at the developer saying like, really? Dude. It's a little discouraging as a public elected official that you can't trust a developer. Shocking. So I also said in my position on village board, I've been very fortunate that I have been appointed as the member to the planning commission for like the last 3 years. And I think I've seen most of you at planning commission meetings, so you know what those are. But that's really sort of the first line of questioning that comes to a developer. Before that developer ever hits the village board, he or she has to go through two tables of very experienced folks. We have like the most experienced planning commission in Dane County. Some of these folks have been on this commission for 20 years, whether that's a good thing or a bad thing, might be your opinion, but they're all super knowledgeable and they ask tough questions. And I think we have gotten better at asking tough questions, even asking the developer, what dates did you meet with neighbors? We would like to see some written notice of what you met and notes. And if you can't get those things, it's very easy. Oregon is not that big of a town. I tend to know at least one person who's living near a development, and you can just go and ask those people. There's always a chance to ask developers tough questions because there's so many steps in the process through the planning commission and the village board. So my answer is that I just keep asking questions, and I don't always trust the answers. I keep asking more.
Thank you. Michael?
Yeah, I'd be interested to look into what is in the agreements that require that community involvement in this development, and just make sure that, if we're putting that in agreements, that we are holding those folks accountable. Making sure that we're bringing the folks in the community to the planning commission so that they can be involved in those meetings, help people understand how they can have an involvement in their community if it's not clear to them. But then also, I plan on making myself available to the community. One of the things I'm really looking forward to is meeting a lot more of the residents of Oregon and understanding what folks are interested in, what they're really excited about, what drives them crazy, so that we can make sure we're keeping that in mind as we're planning for the future. So hopefully through that open communication, we can make sure we're catching where there's a significant sticking point.
Okay, thank you. Okay, the next question starts with Jean. What ideas do you have for attracting new high-end industrial businesses to the area?
Well, before we do that, we have to get more space for them to locate in. So we have a current industrial park, and it's pretty much full. We are working with the adjacent landowner to try to persuade them to sell us some more land so that we can expand our business park. That is always a slow process. So that's my first goal, quite frankly, is to expand the land that we have available for industry. And I'm sure you all know what I'm talking about on the west side of the village. The other space that is probably not as great an option, but lots of folks want us to look into it, is crossing Highway 14 on 138, crossing the highway over there. The last time we checked the budget to extend water, sewer, we'd have to install a lift station, was almost $5 million. And that's not an investment I don't think this board is willing to take unless we have a developer come to us and say, we're going to develop a business park over there. I'm not willing on taking a $5 million risk and hoping, like, if we build it, they will come. So I guess my first priority is to work with the landowner on the west side of the village, see if we can get some more land over there. As far as attracting folks, we have a really great Chamber of Commerce director, Judy Knutson, who has done a great job attracting businesses. In fact, if you ever come to a village board meeting, she'll usually come up during the public comment parade and kind of rail on us because she doesn't have any place for people to go that want to come to Oregon. So trust me, that's always top of mind. We're always trying to find places for people, for new businesses to go.
Okay, thank you. Michael?
This might be an opportunity for careful planning of a TIF district to make sure that if someone's interested in building into this space that we're going to work to have, that it's an attractive option for a company that could be one of the linchpins of the Oregon community moving forward. So just making sure that as we plan development, we make sure that if we can come up with a beneficial option for industry, that we do that.
Okay, thank you. Jenna?
I agree that we need to work on expanding our business park or finding new space, because if we're going to get one business that can fit in the space that's left, we're still going to need more. So I think as we work to entice industry to come, or light industry, whatever we're working on at that moment, we also need to have space for them to go. So whether that be the place next to the business park, whether that be across 14, I think we really need to make that a priority, one of the many priorities that the board has, so that we can offer this space to businesses that are looking to come here. The other thing is, I have sat down and talked with Judy about all the efforts that she's doing to make this place more attractive, this village more attractive to businesses. And she's, I think, using the resources that we have, in this case, Judy and the Chamber of Commerce, can really benefit the village as far as we're looking to expand a business park. What are these businesses looking for? So, like you said, if you build it, they will come, but are we building the right thing? Or are we just building a random spot that we think is gonna work, but nobody's gonna want it? So that's where I look to the resources that we have, the support network with the Chamber of Commerce, with business leaders in the community, to say, what else do we need to do to get businesses here? And who can we talk to get that done?
Okay, thank you. Okay, the next two questions are on village services. And we start with Michael. Will you guarantee that the village will not privatize village water services?
No, I actually don't think I can guarantee that. I would be interested in taking a look at the plan and seeing if that would make sense for the village long term. I'm not in the details of what privatizing the water service would look like in the short term or the long term. If it would improve service at a lower cost, it's definitely something I would be interested in. And if it didn't do that, I don't think I would be interested in it.
Okay, thank you. Jenna?
That makes me a little nervous when we hear about communities that are having trouble, for instance, Milwaukee, with their current water supply or water services, that privatizing it, if we were to go that route, even if it costs the village taxpayers a significant savings, how do we hold the companies that are then ownership of our water services, of a vital piece of our community survival, how do we hold them accountable for keeping the standards up that we expect? And so, although I'm not one to dismiss anything out of hand, I need to see a lot more details about if we privatize something that is so important to our community, how are we then going to be able to hold that company accountable to keeping our water standards up to where we expect them to be? And so I need a lot more information before I'd be willing to jump on that ship.
Okay, thank you. Jean?
I have a pretty short answer. No, I'm not in favor of privatizing water service. I think there are certain things that should always stay within the municipality's control. That's water, sewer, police, fire. Those things I'm always going to vote that stay under the municipal control. And that's a very short answer.
Okay, and then following up with that, we start with Jenna. How can you ensure that the village water supply is safe and lead-free?
Well, that's kind of tough because we don't generally put away. So if this was my house, I'd be like, we should have a sinking fund, but this is a village and that doesn't quite work out the same way. If, you know, redoing our entire water infrastructure is a lot of money, and when we approve developments, we're not necessarily saying we're also going to put away X amount of dollars each year for the next 30 years so that when this time comes, we'll have the money saved up. Also, when things get lean, that pot's going to look pretty attractive for making sure our roads are plowed. So I think that's something we just have to keep monitoring. We have to testing our lead. We're taking the opportunity as we're redoing Jefferson Street here to upgrade any pipes for the water service that need it. And I think when we open up projects like taking down an entire street to redo it, that's a great opportunity to say what infrastructure underneath do we need to upgrade to make things better for our village, make things safer for the people involved, and really capitalizing on those opportunities so that the change is incremental, but it's happening and it's always on the forefront of our mind.
Okay, thank you.
Me? Okay. I can reassure you that this is something that we take very seriously in the village. We are constantly testing the water to make sure it is free of lead and any other chemicals. We have nationally certified folks who are running the water and sewer treatment plant. Those guys are extremely professional. And I should say that when last summer, we budgeted funds to redo the street, Elm Street and South Main Street up to Washington. We looked, and by we, I mean staff, looked at historic maps of the Village of Oregon and found that the only remaining lead pipes did exist on Elm Street. And so one of the things that we did is obviously we replaced all of the village portion of those pipes into not lead pipes. And then we went a step further and we actually required the homeowners to replace the pipes going into their homes if it were made of lead, and we required them to pay for that. So that was a tricky discussion among the board of, is that too much to mandate to a homeowner that there might be nothing structurally wrong with your pipe, but it's made of lead. And we made the decision on the board to make that requirement, even though it made the homeowners pay more, because we felt down the line it was more important to have a village completely free of lead pipes than it was to ask folks to pay more money. And I need to give the folks who lived on Elm Street a lot of credit. We didn't get hardly any pushback from that. They understood the importance of that issue. And so I want to thank the homeowners on Elm Street for that extra cost to them for replacing those pipes.
Okay, thank you. Michael?
In a situation like this, I'd make sure that we're working with the professionals who work in that area to make sure that we're doing the appropriate testing, that we're looking at the recent science to make sure that the way we test and the frequency we're testing is appropriate. I think this is also a good reminder about why proactive investment in infrastructure is important, so that if we did have something like this come up and we did have to make a change, we didn't have an overdue burden that we were now responding to. So I think this is just a reminder for us that we need to make sure we're continuing to invest in the infrastructure of our community so that it doesn't all come due at one point.
Okay, thank you. Well, that's the end of the questions. So we're now going to the your final statements, and we start with Jean.
Ooh, final statements. I have 3 minutes. Gosh, what do you want to know about me? Well, let me just say that I'm so very honored and proud to represent the Village of Oregon when I go out and about. People ask me where I'm from, and I very proudly say Oregon because we're a growing municipality, and I think we are making good decisions on how to grow. I think we're growing steadily. We're growing slowly. We're being very smart about how we are managing taxes in this village. The current board has very much a self-mandate to make sure that your village portion of your taxes never go up more than $60 a year. In fact, if you followed the budget proceedings this last year, we made some cuts on the very final meeting before we passed that budget because that was a commitment that we had made. Because we know that folks who are on a strict income, especially senior citizens, don't have the opportunity to go out and get another job. So that's one thing that I'm very committed to. As you see the civic campus moving forward, and you're going to see some fairly scary numbers, I think, coming forward and perhaps being thrown at you about how taxes are going to go up. Remember this, and this is what I tried to strain at the last board meeting. Make sure you look at the numbers over a 5 or 6 year period. Because if we do move forward with building a new library and senior center, taxes are going to go up. But if you average it over a 6 year period, we're at a $50 yearly increase. So that's going to be my message going forward is don't let the numbers scare you. Make sure you educate yourself. I hope that you trust me enough to represent you. I take the responsibility very seriously, and I would ask for your vote on April 4th.
Thank you. Michael?
I'm really honored to be here. I'm really excited to work alongside the folks in this community to make sure we make the right decisions for Oregon moving forward. I think we've got a lot of big challenges and a lot of big changes that we're right on the cusp of. And I want to be here to make sure that as we make these decisions, as we plan the library, as we plan the senior center, as we plan developments for the next 5 to 10 years, that we're planning for the long term and we're making smart decisions now, so we're not regretting them 10 years down the road. I have a lot to learn about this community, and I'm really excited to put in the time and the effort to make sure that I'm learning everything I need to do a great job on the village board. Thanks again, everyone, for showing up. Thanks for inviting me, and I look forward to your vote on April 4th.
Thank you. Jenna?
Well, thank you again for coming out on a Sunday afternoon. I really have enjoyed the process of running for village trustee. Let me tell you, the people that I've met willing to share with me their thoughts and feelings, fears, and hopes for the community, it's been amazing. And as we go forward, I'm really excited to see the growth and development that happens in the community. And I would like your vote so that I can help usher that in, because I think our community has a great opportunity to keep the services for the families who are coming in that we're inviting into our community, but also to keep that close small town feel that I've enjoyed, and to just really keep it a neighborly, great place to live for families, for our seniors, for everybody who are currently here and looking to come to Oregon. So again, I would ask for your vote on April 4th and look forward to serving the community however I can.
Thank you. I want to thank everybody here for coming and thank the candidates. I think they need an applause for going through this. Okay, we're done.
Okay, well, that wraps up this portion. We're going to take a little bit of a break. The restrooms are out back in the foyer the way you came, and there are some refreshments on the back table, and we'll start with school board candidates around 3 o'clock. That clock is wrong. It's an hour late. So, what? Oh, just a 10-minute break? Okay, we'll take about 10 minutes, and then we'll start with school board. Thank you.
Well, hello. Welcome to the interviews for the Village of Oregon School Board. Our two candidates are Tim LeBrun,
You're great.
and Gwen Maidson. Okay. My name is Diane Martin Liebert, and I'm from the Dane County League of Women Voters. We're going to start our questions with Tim, and ask him why he's running, to introduce himself, ask him why he's running, and what his background is for this particular position.
Very good. Thank you. And I'd like to thank the Oregon Area Progressives for inviting me here today. My name is Tim LeBrun. My wife Susie and I have been in the district since 1991. We have been very fortunate to raise 4 kids in this district. Our youngest 2 are twins, graduated this past spring actually. Our twin daughters, and our boys who are older graduated in 2009 and 2011. The reason I'm running for the Oregon School Board is for a variety of reasons. First of all, I am running to bring my experience, over 25 years of experience, giving to the community, not just serving on a school board, but providing service back to a community. I've worked with the Boy Scouts of America, the Knights of Columbus, our church here in town, the Optimist Club, and I've not only worked with those organizations, but I've run and chaired those organizations. And so my board experience for 25 years is rather extensive. I do not have political experience. I have public service experience. My background is in finance. I graduated from the University of Wisconsin-Eau Claire with a finance degree. I'm one of those people who asks, how are we going to pay for this? I do. I'm a business owner, I'm a parent and a taxpayer in this community, and I ask that question all the time because I want to know, how are we going to pay for this? So I'm going to take my experience of working on boards, public service boards. I'm going to take my experience of being a father of 4 kids in this district. I'm going to take my experience of working on public service boards, and I'm going to take my interest in making sure that our school delivers a great education and hires the best educators we can afford. Thank you.
Thank you. Gwen?
My name is Gwen Maidson. I'm from the township of Oregon. And my personal info is that I've been 15 years in the area and 16 years teaching at the high school art. And so before I came to Oregon, I taught at Boylan Central Catholic High School in Rockford, Illinois, and Wayland Academy in Beaver Dam, Wisconsin. And I've also taught a variety of university classes. Oregon is my home because, I don't know, I'm smitten. I love this place. And I've lived in a lot of places, and this is where I've decided to light. But right now, I would like to tell you why I'm running again. I've already been on the school board for 3 years. I have experience, not only with the interworkings of the school board, but I am an educator. And I think that's really, really important because I know how schools run inside and out. I know the daily, how teachers work on a daily basis. I have a liberal arts degree and a master's degree in science and education and a master's of fine arts, 25 years of teaching, 3 years in the school board, and I continue in personal professional development. I know education. I'm research oriented, not afraid to ask questions, and I also appreciate primary sources. So some of the accomplishments that I've already established as a school board member is, one of the best ones, I think, is I've worked on 2 referenda, the capital referendum, which brings our schools into the state of the art, and also getting the teacher compensation referendum. Teachers are the foundation of any school, and we took it to the community. And one of the great things about Oregon and the district at large is that people really love education here and support it. And that is very brilliant as far as I'm concerned. I was a 2-year member of the Visioning Committee, and I helped to draft the 2016 Visioning paper, which creates a roadmap for our future in adapting the 4 C's. It's competency, character, culture, and community. And one of the things that I really enjoyed was the arts initiative for the school district. I completed a Netherwood Arboretum mural. I got up on a 20-foot ladder and fought off a battalion of mosquitoes. I started the Friendship Pole Project and scheduled a poetry slam for April. My goal is to make the arts initiatives sustainable. And of course, I was 2 years for chair of the policy committee, including everybody's voices. So I'm very accomplished as a teacher. I know how to work within the system, and I do love education.
Okay, thank you. Now, the first question, this next one starts with Gwen. Since we have no private schools in Oregon or Brooklyn, what effect do state vouchers have on our schools?
That's a really, really good question. State vouchers affect every school in Wisconsin. And one of the reasons is that money is being transferred from the public sector, and it doesn't matter what school, what district you belong to, but it's being funneled from the public sector into the private sector. So what that means is that it is our budget will decrease. I'm a delegate for the Wisconsin Association of School Boards, and it would be this January, 2017, we voted to increase individual Scott Walker gave $200 per student, and the delegates wanted to bring it up to $400, and that was denied. However, being on a delegate, I am working at the state level to be a watchdog for the budget and to work and be a voice for people, because the private schools, we're fortunate not to have that kind of competition, but it does affect all of us, and we have to be very, very careful about that.
Thank you, Tim.
First of all, I feel very fortunate to be in Oregon, where our community really does support our schools. Without question, this whole issue around school vouchers and charter schools affects all of us. It does, because it does come from the state budget. Here in Oregon, where we have control over what goes on in our school district, we have done an excellent job through our independent learning initiatives to make sure that we are meeting the needs of our students. I think we do a great job in meeting the needs of our students. And so oftentimes people ask me, what do you think about charter schools? I say, you know what? I don't feel like charter schools, we have a risk of charter schools here in our school district because we are delivering what our market, in other words, what our parents, what our students, and what our educators are looking for in our school district. And I want to make sure that through my work on the school board, that continues.
Okay, thank you. Tim, you get the next one. What is your vision for the Oregon school system?
There's really a couple of things. The near-term vision, I want to start with the near-term vision. I think we need to make sure that we fairly and accurately and equitably implement the educator compensation program. I was a co-chair of the committee that got the educator compensation referendum passed, so it's very important to me, and I want to make sure that it's delivered not only in the spirit but in the equity that we were on a quest to make sure that took place. All right. Secondly, midterm, not necessarily near term, we've got some real challenges ahead of us financially. We have a neighborhood that is planned in our school district near the border of Fitchburg, in Fitchburg actually, and we need to make sure that we are financially ready for that. They're expecting between 12 and 1,500 homes. That brings a lot of kids. And so I want to make sure from a midterm perspective that we are well prepared, that it doesn't take us by surprise, first of all, and that people are well educated, because oftentimes when we're looking at the requirement for a new school, immediately people feel as though their taxes are going up. And so there's going to be an important element of communication coming up for our planning for the next 3 to 5 years.
Okay, thank you. Gwen?
The visioning of our district, first of all, with the referenda, I mean, we went through a big step forward with that. We have state-of-the-art buildings. We have the teacher compensation, which, by the way, is being used as a model now throughout the state. And I think that's really It took 3 years to get that together, and it was done very carefully with a lot of research. And that was a very collaborative project. The teachers are very, very important. And one of our is to maintain our experienced teachers and to bring in highly qualified new teachers. And one of the things that we need to do is not only financially get them to be competitive with other school districts, but to build positive relationships. And along with that, building the positive relationships will help with our students in their academic careers, because what's coming up in the future is the school board has been studying along with the administration independent learning programs, independent learning plans for our students, because not everybody learns the same way. And so we have designed the schools, the new school academics section, to participate in all types of learning styles. And I think that's really great. Now it's just getting it implemented. As in the other planning, I agree with the Fitchburg. We have right now, we already are talking about that, and we have experts coming in to discuss that. So that's already in the making, and being very careful about making sure that our taxpayers, are valued and not overtaxed. So with that being said, the vision and the background and the forward looking is wonderful for our district.
Okay, thank you. This one goes to Gwen. The community visioning process has brought many voices into the conversation regarding the direction of our schools. How are you sharing the steps made by the Oregon School District with the community?
That's a great question. And this is a shout out to our district office administration and how they invited people to come in. And it was in August, and then there was a follow through with it as well. And the visioning committee did all of these things. And I have a far-reaching connections with people. And it's not just one type of demographic, it's a variety of demographics. And so when the question comes up, I talk about it and I give as much information as I possibly can. But it's across the board. It's not, it's at the Firefly, it's Senior Peppers, it's, wherever I am and whatever I'm doing. A lot of the vision is really exciting. One thing that, and I am proud to say that there was a voice that was left out of the visioning process, and that was some of our students. And there was a great student forum at the visioning thing, and I think we learned a lot from those students. But one of a group of students that was left out were some of the OASIS, the alternative ed kids. And so what happened is through my advocation for them, they are now included in that, and I am very proud of that it's becoming more of an inclusive process and more about equity with listening to all the voices and getting out there and making sure that everyone understands.
Okay, thank you. Tim?
I had the benefit, as I mentioned, of having our daughters in high school over the last 4 years. And our daughters they're fortunately very active girls. They were in the arts and in music. They were in athletics, both on the side of football. Our daughter Nina managed the football team for the last 2 years. She was the student council president for the last 2 years. And Nina also served as the student liaison to the Oregon School Board this past year. Those are three very important voices to hear from, not just within the school, but the extracurriculars, to hear voices from the extracurriculars. Athletics, arts, music, etc. To hear from the students themselves. Again, I had the benefit of having probably one of the most connected students in the Oregon schools living under our roof the last couple of years. As I mentioned, I co-chaired the referendum for the compensation program. It means a lot to me. I was part of that visioning group, part of the co-led the communication and community group through that referendum. And so hearing from all those different sources, and on top of that, hearing from Judy Knutson, who represents the businesses in our community, hearing from our chief of police, from our mayor, our village president, Steve Staten. Without question, I'm involved in all of those circles, and many of you have seen me, maybe not heard from me, but seen me in those circles. I'm not a very vocal person, but I do listen well. And so when we finally got through that 3-year period and finally got to a point where we felt comfortable preparing the community for a teacher compensation referendum, I thought we were well prepared, and we had a resounding approval going through that process.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Tim, this one's for you first. How would you encourage high school teachers, specifically social studies teachers, to encourage civic engagement for the students?
Yeah, great question. Again, I've had the benefit of having two very involved kids, most recently our girls who are twins in high school. One of the greatest things that I have seen through the high school process with our girls, particularly over the last 4 years, is the high school teachers' willingness to bring people in from outside of the traditional education system, to bring folks in to talk about how their education relates to how they're going to live in society. I've had the benefit of working through the Knights of Columbus, the Optimist Club, and our church, working with youth in our community to get them involved in volunteering, to getting out and not only listening on your side of the table, but speaking on this side of the table. Not just our social studies teachers, but all of our teachers at the high school have done a great job in engaging the community, the business community, the parental community who have lots of experience outside of traditional education, to deliver what it looks like, what the future looks like for them, and why their education is important to their future. So I think they've done a great job. I think if they continue to reach out for that non-traditional education component, reaching outside of the traditional teacher-student relationship, the better off we will bring those kids into their future as adults.
Thank you, Gwen.
The teachers do a great job at this, the civics. I would like to propose that perhaps we actually begin to have a separate civics class that is a requirement. We don't have to do it through the state, but it can be our own personal high school requirement. And with that, it could only be a semester long. It can combine all of the necessary information, particularly about how to vote, how to be a critical thinker when looking at all the advertisements, how to bring it back to civility in terms of making the decision instead of reacting just from the emotion. And one of the things is that it needs to have a variety, and it also has to promote an equal. And the school board and the school district is involved right now in an equity project, which means that how do we pull in other demographics and include them into the study and into that building positive relationships. One of the things that the school district does do for our high school kids is that they now have a service requirement, and that's reaching out into reality land, which is business, and or farming or whatever else is there. And I think that this would be a nice combination of the fundamentals of being a good citizen and giving back to what the society has given to you. And so I think that's a great question, and right now we have it embedded into our teaching, but I'd like to see it as a separate so that their conversation can start and be more intense.
Okay, thank you. Gwen, this one's for you. How many students might be impacted by the state budget proposed cuts? to subsidize breakfast and lunch programs? And how would it impact on student achievement?
I would have to ask, as I'm research oriented, I don't have the specific numbers right in front of me, but I do know that it will impact learning. Whoever put that out there, I'm sorry, shame on you. Because one of the things that I learned working at the alternative school, which I helped to organize and work for 4 years and created it, is that we gave all of our students food. And it is essential that kids come to school without empty stomachs. And if schools can help people do that, then no matter what age it is, what ages they are, then it will help them to learn better. I mean, the studies are out there. And I've seen this firsthand working at Oasis. We would give them breakfast, and not only give them to it, but we'd also teach them how to make their own breakfast. And then oftentimes we would, there was a cooking class, and we'd show them how to make certain easy meals, inexpensive meals that were healthy. And during the holiday season, before breaks, we would have, as we used to say, a really good feed, and where everyone sat down at the table. And I think that is essential to make sure that kids have the proper food. And I'm appalled at this idea, and I hope that we can find in our budget the ability to keep our children fed during the mornings. And I will work hard to find that money, because it's essential if it's taken away.
Okay, thank you. Tim?
I know that I do not operate well with an empty stomach, and I know our kids don't either. It's so interesting. As our kids were growing up, I continued to hear about the fact that kids weren't getting good nutrition. Not only good nutrition, but they weren't getting enough to eat. You know, this community has done a fabulous job in putting their ear to the ground and understanding the need for good nutrition and food. The Oregon Food Pantry is a great example of that. And this community, just like it came together for the school district, has come together for the Oregon Food Pantry as well. I understand that there is a risk of losing some or all of that funding for school lunch and breakfast programs. I don't know what that effect looks like yet. I don't want to find out. So it is important. We do need to have a wider voice, something closer to the state level, and I think we're making great strides in providing that voice. Charlie, who is on our school board today, that's one of the reasons he is not running for school board going forward, because he wants to spend our voice in a larger setting, at the state setting, to make sure that he understands where we're coming from. And I feel the same way about that. We need to make sure that our kids are prepared to learn. And one of the greatest preparers for learning is to make sure they're not worried about whether or not they ate this morning.
Okay, thank you. Tim, you get this one. As a school board member, how will you help ensure that our students are prepared for the 21st century jobs, fulfill their civic duties as citizens, and have the everyday knowledge needed to live independently?
Yeah, that's a great question. First of all, I don't pretend to speak for our educators. I am not a traditional educator. I think they do a great job in raising their voices to both administration as well as to the school board, to help us understand how they see our kids learning better, and both in terms of environment, in terms of the process of learning, etc. From my perspective, as a non-educator in the school system, I want to make sure that our kids have a connection, a bridge to understanding how what they're learning today pertains to their life in the future. We talked about it just a few moments ago on the social studies or the civics side of things, bringing in volunteers from our own community who have engineering backgrounds, food service backgrounds, landscaping backgrounds, to help our kids see how their skills and talents can be used not only to support themselves, but to support the greater good of our community, our state, and in the world. You know, Lou Kinchy has put together a fabulous program, an international travel program, where she spends the semester teaching kids about a particular area of the world and then takes them on the trip to see that place. She prepares them well to help them understand the culture, the people, the challenges they face, and then she picks them up and takes them there. I want you to imagine in any one of those classes that is possible. And you don't have to go to Greece necessarily, but in some cases, Greece is the right place. You simply have to connect their future to what they're learning today. And I support that.
Okay, thank you. Gwen?
So the question was, how do we prepare our students for the 21st century civic duties and so that they are happy, healthy, contributing adults? I think that one of the most important aspects of an education is, and this is coming from the heart of an educator, is that we produce children, young adults, that know how to critically think and to be creative problem solvers. Because there are jobs out there that haven't been created, that we can't even imagine at this point in time. But with that being said, if you teach those skills, a child or a young adult can do anything. They can function in academia. They can function in technology world. They can function in the trades. And I think that this is really, really important. I'm also privy to the fact that one of our problems, and there are problems, let's be honest, is reading. And some of our test scores in Oregon, it's really interesting, is that they don't lower into a danger zone or anything like that, but they do lower when kids hit middle school and high school. And they rise with math and technology, and I think that's great. But reading is very essential, and how do you balance the type of reading that's not only computer-oriented, but also reading for fun and learning that way? And I think that one of the most important things is to create an atmosphere and an attitude within an individual to enjoy learning, and that it's a process that ends up going through your entire life.
Okay, thank you. When you get this one, if state budget cuts come, and we're not sure yet because the budget hasn't passed, but what are some of the areas where you think cuts should be made in the school district budget?
Ooh, I was wondering if that would be a question that we would ask. That's a tough one. Well, first of all, we are very, very fortunate to live in a district where our finances are in great shape, and that is due to our leadership at our district office, and kudos to Andy Weiland and Brian Bussler for that. And I really do think that that's important. So where do we cut? I say we would have to examine what was how we would do this. And what I would do is bring in a task force where there's a multiple variety of voices. That means parents, students, business people, and educators and teachers. And I think that that's essential to keep the process transparent and equitable. And so it would take some time, but we have reserves. And again, that's because our district's in really, really good financial shape. Dependent on what happens, and we don't know that yet, we will survive, and we will survive well. And that is kudos to our community, because people here are very invested in their children's education and other people's children's education. So I have complete faith that we would work it out. And where would I specifically cut it? I don't know at this point in time. I would have to see a spreadsheet, and I would also have to listen to what people would say. But at this point, everything to me is very important. The sports, the arts, the academics, the staff, etc., is all extremely important. I don't see that one is more important than the other.
Okay, thank you. Tim?
Yeah, I would have to agree with Gwen here for sure. I have no idea where we would have to cut in education. I don't have a particular axe to grind in any one area. I think that we would need to come together, all the way from students to educators to our staff and administration, and bubble up from the community where they think the most important aspects of our education system is. You know, this whole public-private partnership is becoming more and more important. You need to have a cooperative problem-solving commitment, not just from the educators to the school board, from the students to the educators, from the school board to the village. It's not just about having a cordial relationship. It's about having a cooperative problem-solving relationship. Once we understand if there are to be cuts, once we understand what the extent of those cuts, because it's all about the dollars, I think we can bring together the right groups to bubble up what's most important and where do we think we can solve the issues we're currently addressing differently. I think we'll be more prepared to make a list of here's how we're going to solve this problem. So making cuts in any one area, I don't see that happening. I see us cooperating and problem solving together to get what we need through our schools.
Okay, thank you. Well, now it's time for the closing statements. And we start with Tim.
Very good. I do not have political experience. I simply don't. I do have 25 plus years of public service experience. Although I have 26 years of public service or executive board experience, I also have 26 years of parenting experience. Bottom line, I know from my public service experience the role of a board member. This isn't a place to grind my own personal axe. This is not the place to drive my own pet projects and my own pet purposes. This is a role that not only values listening and cooperative problem solving, it requires it. Because we are faced with cuts in funding from time to time. Because we are faced with how are we going to pay for it? You'll hear me ask that a lot. How are we going to pay for it? This does not just require a cordial relationship with our superintendent or our village president or our police chief. It requires cooperative problem solving. And I have 25 plus years in cooperative problem solving through the public service boards that I have served on. And I would really appreciate your vote. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And Gwen?
First of all, thank you for coming out this afternoon. It's been a pleasure. It also has been a pleasure to serve on the school board for the last 3 years. It's been a wide learning curve, and I've really enjoyed it because I pride myself in being a lifelong learner. My service to the board has been quite, I think, very productive and very positive. Chair of the policy committee for 2 years, visioning, help with the referendum. But the other thing that I bring to the board that nobody else does is the fact that I'm an accomplished educator. I've managed students for 25 years. I organized art festivals. I've wiped a few noses. I've donated my time 9 years free of charge for the art club because it was a need. I worked in special ed and designed an adaptive arts program. I worked with gifted and talented, spearheaded a data collection of a comparison of GPAs versus standardized test scores. I currently teach community ed and work with retirees now because I are one. And I plan to open my own studio for teaching. I'm a service-oriented school board member as well. I volunteer at Oasis, Rotary Projects, DECA, OHS Art Club, Oregon Youth Center, Schools of Hope, Dane County. I'm a reader for the Dane County Arts Commission Grant Board. I work with Community Ed. I'm a Wisconsin Association of School Board Delegates, and I'm a Village Park Board member. My goal for the next 3 years is that I will continue to ask the tough questions. It doesn't matter what other people think, and in terms of, you shouldn't do that. But at the same time, these questions need to be asked. I'm not afraid. I will advocate for more public input into our decision making to make the process more transparent. I support the programs for all students through academics, alternative ed, equity for students, individualized learning plans, reading, special needs, and sports. I will continue to work on the arts initiative so that it becomes sustainable. We need art. I like what Winston Churchill said, that, if he was asked to cut the budget for art, and he said, well, then why are we at war? I will volunteer in our community for the students. My passion for education is evident. Working with people young and old to promote critical thinking, creative problem solving in the context of positive personal expression is not only a calling, it is my joy. I'm a proven leader, experienced, dedicated, and a volunteer. Please keep the teacher on the board. Please re-elect myself. There is still work to be accomplished. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you. This is the end of the program. I want to thank the candidates and all of you for being here, part of our audience, and also to encourage everybody to vote on April 5th.
Fourth.
4th?
Yes.
Sorry about that. It's the first week in April.
Thank you, everybody.
Can I just say some quick thank yous to Carlene for excellent timekeeping, and to the Oregon Cable Access Channel who's filming this and will make it available to a much wider audience than was able to make it today. And one last thing, we want to leave you with some parting thoughts. I'm going to hand the mic to Carlene. She's going to talk to you for just 1 minute about some stuff.
So one of the things you heard mentioned multiple times today was the state budget and the state budget's effect on public education. The Joint Finance Committee of the state legislature is holding hearings around the state, and the first one in the southwest region of the state is on April 3rd, Monday, the day before the election. And I'm working with the Wisconsin Public Education Network, which Tim referred to. That's the group that Charlie's been doing a lot of work with. Charlie Uphoff is currently on the board and not running for re-election. We are seeking folks who have concerns about the state budget, and this is going up, about the state budget and its effect on public education and also on the environment, who might want to go to Platteville and testify regarding those cuts and what effect that they would have on.
Just like that. The microphone just died.
Yes.